Welcome to this week's episode of the Evolve to Succeed podcast, and welcome back, listeners. We've got an amazing episode for you this week. We have Anders from the Anglo American Oil Company as our guest. He has got a great story of entrepreneurship and how that business is now transcended to a family business. I promise you, I'm sure there's going to be some great value in everything that Anders has to say. And if you do like the episode, please do help us by liking, reviewing and subscribing the podcast. Let's get on with the show. Anders, welcome to the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm a bit of a petrol head myself, so I'm really excited about our conversation to find out much more about the business. But perhaps you could give our listeners a bit of an insight into how you came to found the business and start the business in the first place.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Like all my adventures always start because there's an opportunity. And so to not go too far back, but when the reason why we came to England, so born in Sweden, still Swedish citizen, but of course resident in the UK. I started working in England in 1995 for a company in Poole that was just launching a new type of supercar. So, and I was their distributor in Scandinavia for replicas of Ford GT40s and Lola T70s, which I then also raced to spread the word that it was actually indeed a very good car. And I was their best distributor worldwide. So when they decided to launch a new car, they wanted someone that could speak more than one language and was also quite good at selling cars. So they rang me and said, "Oh, do you want to come over and be our sales and marketing director?" I said, "Yeah, of course." Quick word.
Opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Quick word with Eva, my wife, and she said, "Well, you always done what you want to do, so yeah, off you go." So for 2 years, I was commuting between Sweden.
The family were back in Sweden.
Yeah.
You were working in the UK.
Yeah, exactly. Eva was not too keen to move to England because language, back in those days, it was not natural that you actually spoke English because we didn't have any internet or things like that the youngsters have today, where there's actually purpose to actually understand English. So her English was at best adequate. So I came over here, I started work, and I had a great time. I sold every car they could produce. The problem was that the car was not ready to go into production. So every car that was built was a prototype. So whilst I had great fun selling them, the company was making losses because they couldn't produce them fast enough. So about 2.5 years into me working here, and half a year after that, Eva and the children actually decided to come over, the company went into bankruptcy.
So you'd made that big move as a family, that commitment to actually leave Sweden, come to the UK, and then there's that moment of, oh no,
exactly. Sold the house in Sweden, bought a house in England, big mortgage, and what do we do now? And I actually had when I raced in Sweden, I was sponsored by a company called Motorsport, which is basically like Auto Trader. They didn't give me any money, but they gave me adverts. So when for my other sponsors, I could then sell space on the car, plus I got an advert, so it was a win-win situation.
Okay, so that enabled you to generate the revenue to
exactly.
be able to compete in motorsport.
And I had a couple of adverts left. So I then rang. So I thought, well, times are going to be tough. I need to sell these adverts I got left to sell. So I rang my oil sponsor and said, "Hey, do you want to buy one of these adverts? I really need to sell them." They were a bit tight, so they didn't do that. But they said, "We are now the European distributor of 76 lubricants, high-performance oils." And I thought, okay, fair enough. And they said, "Well, we're actually looking for someone in England to take it on." I said, "Okay. Do you know anyone?" I thought, So nothing to do. And I thought, well, really good products, sort of approved by NASCAR. What could possibly go wrong? So I talked to my friends, my dad. They all said, "Don't do it. Take a normal job. You need to think about your family." And the only one who said, "Yes, go for it," was Eva.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let's do it. So
So already I'm seeing she's a really supporting individual in terms of how you've succeeded and her role in this whole story.
Yeah. So of course it was another leap into the unknown. But I bought a container of oil, and of course then had the knife on my throat to actually go and sell these products. And whilst I thought it was going to be easy to do, I quickly realized that it is not that easy to try to sell a new brand into a very competitive market. And it was like banging my head against the brick wall. It was so tough to do it. Luckily, I had already the year before this happened managed to get enough sponsorship to compete in the Renault Spider Championship in the UK. And that was on the TOCA package, the British touring car package. And I was quite successful. I had a great time, and I got a lot of contacts. And I managed to convince them that they should use our oils as well. And that's how I got into selling the products into the racing industry in the UK. But it was still extremely hard. And I tried to justify what I was doing. I was sort of patient, but of course it was really, really tight. We had virtually no money. The sponsorship just covered the racing, and it was just, this is really tough. And I was sort of, shall we really do this?
And so was there a moment in that journey in those early days where you thought, maybe my friends were right and maybe I should stop this and I should go into paid employment?
There was always, of course, the thought was there, but I've always been quite stubborn. My wife says I'm extremely stubborn. And I thought this must be possible to get this product in because it's such a good product. And I started to get a little bit of momentum. And I will never forget this day. I was in the middle of nowhere in England, driving my Volvo, of course. Being Swedish, I had to have a Volvo. And I'd just been out trying to sell oil to a garage, and they said, yeah, happy to try it. And they wanted to try it in their van. I thought, this is really, and you want to try it in your van and you want it free of charge. This is so hard work.
Banging your head against a brick wall type thing.
And then suddenly I got a call on my mobile phone. And so I stopped, took the call and said, hello, it's Anders. Hello, this is Martin Goodman from Cosworth Racing. And I thought, it's one of my mates trying to sort of pull my leg here. But I thought, it might be genuine. So I sort of started to talk to him, etc. And then I realized it was actually Martin from Cosworth Racing. And they wanted to buy the 76 race fuel that was used in NASCAR, because 76 was official fuel for NASCAR. So I said, okay, I haven't got it in stock. I need to call and see if firstly we can import this fuel into the UK. And give me 2 days and I'll come back to you. So I did all my research. Yes, I could get it into, and it cost this much. So I called him back and said, yeah, Martin, I can do this. And he wanted 1,600 litres. I said, but I'm afraid it's going to be quite expensive. And I said, it's going to be £6.50 a litre, which in 1999 was a hell of a lot of money. And he said, yeah, that's fine. I thought, damn, I should have said £7.50. Yeah. Anyway, that was my first sale of race fuels. And what was quite interesting, when I advertised oils, the phones didn't ring. But when I advertised fuels, the phone started ringing.
Interesting how serendipity, doesn't it? That chance changes your course. And
and then at the Motorsport show, which is a big international racing car show, massive show in those days, that was year 2000, we had a big stand we borrowed a race car, and we borrowed, and also was the Michelin driver of the year from what I did in the Renault Spider Cup. So I had lots of Michelin tires. I had put nice shelves in the tires. I put a bottle of oil there. So 90,000 people. I got to sell shed loads of oil. And I had this mannequin filling one of the race cars with a fuel pump and a little sign. There's a 76 race fuels now available. And so standing there, selling oil. There were 5 people interested in oils, and I think 3 eventually bought. But what was interesting, I sold a whole container of fuel from that.
Okay.
And so that started the process really, with getting some business.
Then you knew you had some momentum and something to grow. And to put it into context, because we're sat in this wonderful workshop now, and we'll talk about passion and business and how they're entwined.
Yeah.
But for our listeners, what's the size of the, you've got an amazing facility here, the offices, the warehouse, the workshop. What's the size of the business today?
In terms of turnover?
A turnover?
Well, so last year we celebrated our 25th anniversary, and we sort of started from scratch. We didn't have any funds at all, so everything has been built by organically, yeah. And of course, in the beginning, moving money between credit cards.
Yeah.
That was because the bank didn't want to lend us any money, but I figured out, and in those days you didn't have to pay any setting up fee.
Yeah.
So it's basically zero interest and zero setting up fee. I had 10, 15 different credit cards. I had really good Excel spreadsheets. I just moved the funds around. Never paid an interest in any interest at all. And I probably had to use about £100,000 as funding money.
That was how you funded the startup?
Yep.
Wow.
Because the bank didn't want to lend me money.
No.
But of course, if you failed, you kept it too long, you got hit with 25% interest rate. So I was very sharp not doing that.
Just juggling, yeah.
Yeah, and that worked great, actually. But it took at least 3 years until we actually started to see any form of profit. And I think one of the key things that really set us off was when at the 2001 Motorsport show, I'd heard that British GT was looking for a control fuel supplier, which of course was big volume. And of course, I didn't have any trucks. We didn't even have the fuel they needed. But what I did, I went to a stylist and asked him to draw me how the race fuel truck would look like. And with that, I marched into the race director of the championship and said, hey, this is us. This is what we can do. We would like to be a fuel supplier. And to everyone else's astonishment, we got the contract.
Wow.
So then I just had to figure out how to actually do it.
It's how do we deliver? But, how many litres of fuel do you sell a year? And what is the turnover of the business today?
I forgot to answer that question today. We sell today, because it's not just racing, we have garden machinery fuel.
Okay.
So you can leave in the garden machinery equipment for up to 5 years. It will never go off. Got over 600 retailers that is actually reselling these products. And we sell last year we sold 1.7 million liters into that market. The race fuel market, because we look after Europe and Middle East, is about 900,000 liters.
Wow.
And then of course we have the racing oils as well, and the Sonax car cab brand. So it's all been added on as we went along.
And you look back now to see the scale and size of the business, the facility you've got here is amazing, as I've said. Do you pinch yourself about how it's all come about?
Well, to be honest, I haven't had time to do that, but very often me and you, I said, this is great, but how on earth did this happen?
Yeah.
Because, there was a big investment when we built this in 2004, and we thought, can we really afford this? The plan said we could, but can we really afford it? What happens if we drop turnover?
Yeah.
But of course, since then, we've grown quite a lot. And for example, since you talk about turnover, you asked me, in 2019, we turned over 5.4 million.
Yeah.
It was all going well. We were making profit. We've been making profit basically from year 4 of our business. But not massive, sort of very, very steady.
Incremental, success.
And then, of course, we had COVID, which was like, no. No
racing, no nothing.
Nothing. But the garden machinery retailers, they were classed as essential retailers, so they could stay open. So we maintained the skeleton staff. Out of 18, we asked, it was 11 on furlough, and which was great from a company, by the way. We were too big to get any other grants, but we got the furlough, which was fantastic. And we actually only dropped 10% in turnover. So we actually managed to make a profit during the COVID year.
Okay, well done. Well managed.
Yeah, and since then, we nearly doubled the turnover. Actually, since 2020, last year, we doubled the turnover. So just shy of £10 million turnover, which is one milestone in a way.
I mean, you must be really proud at what you've done and what you've achieved. And from that start, the support of Eva and the family here. I mean, what is your view of risk? When you see a new opportunity, it seems like when you see something, you go for it, you put yourself out there. Is that how you continue to build a business?
Yeah.
What's your view of risk now? It is, £10 million turnover business. Has it changed?
It has changed in that we can now put more effort into something we believe. We actually, as we are generating profit, we can use that profit to invest in our own money into something that we believe in will grow, we believe will be big. And if it fails, okay, that was the wrong decision. Whereas in the beginning, you have to be 100% sure that you will succeed. And of course, success can be made from luck or from hard grit. And for most people, it's the hard bit that is the important thing, that never give up.
That blood, sweat and tears.
Yeah, exactly. 40 hours a week, just forget about it. During the race season, I work every day, sort of Monday to Sunday, and they're silly hours, and you think, what am I doing? But the reward is, of course, to see that the business evolves and it becomes more solid for every year.
Yeah.
And of course, Eva, she's a big part of the business. She looks after the financial side. And whereas I come up with lots of ideas and we should do this, she's the handbrake in my life. She said, stop. and then I have to be really sort of convinced that we should do this. And of course, now having Axel in the business.
Yes, now I'm really becoming a real family business with your son Axel in the business. I mean, how did that come about?
Well, he, of course, when we started the business, and I had my own business in Sweden as well, so he's always been aware that I haven't been that typical dad that's gone to work. I've basically gone out of the door and then come back very late, but I've always been around. I might not have been the best dad in terms of kicking footballs because I've been working to try to survive, basically. But he's always been around to see what we've been doing. And of course, Eva started helping with on the financing side, invoicing, taking money, banking checks early on. But as we did it from home, we've always been there when they come back from school. So with Axel sort of said to school, I never said, you need to come and work for us. Of course, it's always a dad's dream that your son would be interested in what you're doing. He's always been interested in motorsport, go-kart, and then he started to do motocross.
Okay, so he's had a similar passion to you.
Oh yeah, probably even more crazy in a way. But so he was always been sort of a clever guy, but he always found it sort of completely unnecessary. For example, religion or history. I'm not interested. Why do I want to study that? Anyway, so but what was quite interesting, because we're Swedish and he's grown up in England and our daughter grew up in England as well, so they're more English than Swedish. He always had that urge to go to Sweden and learn how it is to be a Swede.
Okay.
So he went off after A-levels, went to Sweden, did the sort of a compressed A-level in Sweden. And I even actually did a year at university, a foundation year in university. And then he decided that he was going to go snowboarding.
Okay.
And I said, fair enough, you want to go snowboarding, but don't expect a penny from me. I can help with studies, but snowboarding, that's not stuff.
Don't enjoy yourself,
exactly. So
not being funded by the bank of mum and dad.
Absolutely not. So he went down and to become a ski bum basically, but he actually had to work to make it function. And he got stuck there for, I think, 5 years. But of course, during the summer, he had to come back to get some income. And of course, because he can drive a truck. We made sure he got the truck license. He could help out during the summer and was a great asset for the company. And then, of course, he met in his now wife in France, which is thought, oh no, we live in England, we are Swedish, we don't want to have a French connection. And her name was Jasmine, which of course, but she was from Cornwall. So she came back and also needed a job, so why not? So she also works in the company. So we're sort of 2 generation now, mom and dad and son and daughter-in-law working.
Wow. And has it changed the dynamics? Because obviously, clearly, I was fascinated by that early years of your journey, which was very take the risks. It's very entrepreneurial, wasn't it? See an opportunity, seize it, hard work. And the hard work ethic is still there. But has the dynamic changed now? It's gone from being that entrepreneurial business to being a family business.
I think in a way it has changed from getting an idea and then work as hard as you can to make it happen, because no one else is going to help you. You have no help in driving the trucks, to be at race meetings, delivering the fuel, etc. And now we've got truck drivers doing that part of it. I still go to race meetings to help out, of course, but Axel has sort of basically got me to sit down and think, not just rush into things and work and make it happen by working super hard, but actually utilizing the guys around and bringing in extra resources when needed. So he's actually thinking more. And I don't think it's because he's lazy and wanting other people to do it, but he's actually thinking a little bit
much more from a business perspective and the future, maybe. How do you sustain the business? Because I mean, I've started growing a number of businesses, and you do it through blood, sweat and tears, and that kind of as a spark, I'm going to go. But there is a point where you need the team around you, don't you? And you need to hand off to a team. I must admit, at that point, I usually go, actually, I want to go and start something else, because that's just me and that thing. But I suppose he's probably seen what you've achieved, and maybe his role in this is it's sustainable. Would you agree?
Yeah, he's of course comes in from a completely different angle, because he comes in to table that is more or less laid. Now he's bringing new dishes in, but the foundation is there. We never had the foundation, so it was a very rocky ship to start with. And it's very difficult unless you've done it yourself from day one, and you know that the money you put in, they have to come back and be well used. It is, even though he's grown up in an entrepreneurial family and he's been part of it and he's seen how much we worked, it's still not the same thing.
No.
But it also means that he has a different angle. He can look at it differently.
It's got a different lens and perspective, hasn't it, I suppose?
So.
And how, because clearly what you've done is sometimes they say, don't mix business and family, and sometimes it's said don't mix business with pleasure. Like, don't go into business doing something because you love doing it. But you've really grown a business around something that you've got a huge passion for, which is motorsport. Have you found that difficult at times to, again, perhaps have perspective on the business as a result?
The hardest bit has been to be actually be at race meeting, not be able to race.
To sit on your hands.
Exactly. If it's I could be there, I could do that. No, remind yourself, you don't have the money to do it. The money is needed in the business. So that sort of, but I think if you go into business because you want to make money, I think the risk of failure is very, very big.
Yes, I agree with that. I have this kind of saying, focus on the money and the money doesn't come.
Yeah.
Focus on creating great business that serves its customers and delights its clients and looks after its team. You create a great business that then can make money.
Yeah. I never looked at my business to actually make money.
Okay.
Don't to make me rich.
Yeah.
Never looked at that. The gratitude for me is to have a happy customer.
Yeah.
And of course I'm competitive, so I want to take market shares. to have more customers because I like customers.
Okay.
And we would never be here if it wasn't for our customers. That's the most important
It's the thing not to forget in business, isn't it? We're
cu-
only as good as our team, and we're only as good as our customers.
Yeah, and everything. If you focus on your customer, everything will come. The customer is why we're here. That is so important, and it's easy to forget. And sort of, if it hadn't been for customers, it would have been wonderful to have a business. Oh, it's because of the customers you have a business. So make sure they are happy. If they're happy, you are happy. And that's sort of, I think that's the most amazing thing. And just to have that interaction with the customer, you'll be able to give him good advice so that when he buys something from you, he's happy. He's done the right thing.
Yeah,
that's so important. And that's the way we always looked at it. You don't have to be the cheapest. You don't need to have the best products, but you definitely need to give them the best service and look after them best. If you can do that, price is not that important.
A very quick break from this week's episode, which I hope you're enjoying. If you are enjoying, please remember, do help us and help yourself to make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing and reviewing the episode. So that's it. Short interlude from me. Let's get back to the conversation.
That's like that original call, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the first race control fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. Did that.
It's about, could you get the product into the UK? Could you service? Could you give the quantity you needed? And price was irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you talk about that competitive spirit that clearly comes from motorsport.
Yeah.
How does that show up and manifest itself within the business?
I think it comes down to, you see an opportunity, you know there are competitors out there. How am I going to get there first and provide my customer, if it's a championship or a team, or with the best service, and that is, and the best products. That is, I think that's from the competitive part of it. I don't want to lose a customer.
Yeah,
I don't want to lose a race, and my race is to get the customer, and to make sure the customer is happy.
Yeah. I'm also intrigued about, obviously, you Swedish, very kind of proud of your origins, clearly, from even just this short conversation.
Yeah.
How do you think and it's always thought that those in the Nordic countries and from Sweden have a different perspective on maybe life at times. Is that true? Is it relevant to you? Has it had an impact on the business coming to the UK with maybe that Swedish mindset and frame of mind?
I don't know. I've never thought of that, actually. I guess we have, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of ABBA or what is it down to, but people seem to trust us.
Okay.
And I think that's something that I always told my guys. If you don't know the answer to a question, don't fib it.
Yeah.
You have to be 100% accurate. You have to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
And if you don't know it, tell the customer, I don't know it, but I'll find out and come back to you. And I think that's something that could be Swedish, maybe.
Yeah. Great. Or it's I suppose all of us in business, we hope to create a business that reflects our values. And I think to succeed, you have to do that.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're lying to yourself every day you show up at work, isn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe it's your personal values, and maybe there's something about the Swedish culture, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like all of us, your values and your values about honesty and truth.
Yeah, because the business is an extension of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's sort of, or it should be.
Yeah.
If you try to make it something else, then you're probably lying to yourself.
Yeah.
And
if you could go back now, I mean, it's great to hear the success and story, but if you could go back to 1995 when you arrived in the UK to take that job, is there one piece of advice that you would look back and give yourself?
Well, that's a tough question. I don't know. I never thought of sort of, could I have done it differently? Sort of working for someone, you just try to do the best you can.
Yeah.
And it was sort of that the company didn't succeed was nothing to do with that. Couldn't sell enough cars. So it just happened that it didn't survive.
Yeah.
And then you just have to do the best thing you can for the situation, really. And I mean, in the beginning, it was blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of tears. Of course, when you thought, oh, are we going to survive? We don't have money. How are we going to do this? But I don't think I would have done anything differently. I would probably, hindsight is a wonderful thing, and it's maybe, well, what probably would have been smart to do would have been to employ more people that could help me,
Yeah.
rather than looking at, no, I can't afford to
Yeah.
employ people to make me actually be able to do different things.
Yeah. I think we all learn that on the journey, don't we?
Yeah.
At first, we think we need to be Superman or Wonder Woman and we can solve everything, we can do
Yeah.
everything. But I suppose as the journey emerges, we realise actually we need to be able to play to our strengths
Yes.
and build a team around us that perhaps deals with our weaknesses or deals with the things that somebody else can do. So we, as you've rightly said, I think it's great advice,
Yeah,
focus on the things that really we can make a difference to.
exactly. Because although when you're an entrepreneur, you think you are the best guy for every aspect of the business, which of course is true, but you can't do it all, and you can't do it all good.
Yep.
So you need to employ specialized
Yeah.
guys that can actually help you in different matters. But it's very important to make sure that whoever you employ and whatever you do, that you all are on the same journey.
Yeah.
That they understand what do I actually want to achieve with the business, what is the purpose of the business, what are our goals,
Yeah.
etc.
And I love your passion, and I can just see that kind of that desire in you to create this great business that, as we say, serves its
Yeah.
clients. As the business has grown and you've had to let go,
Yeah.
how have you managed that? Because it's easy to say that's what we need to do,
Yeah.
but there'll be listeners to this that are running their own business that are at that point where maybe actually I've got to let go of some things, I've got to
Yeah.
delegate, and
Yeah.
are finding it difficult. Have you got any words of advice for somebody in that position?
You need to trust people. You need to give them guidelines, and you need to lead them, and you need to set up some sort of reporting that satisfies what you want to hear from them. You don't need to know the details, but you need to know that they're on the same path. You need to know what they're working on, and so you just need to be informed, basically. But it is so important to take that step and realize that, yeah, although we are Superman or women who starts our own business and we can do a lot of things, it is better to delegate so we can then to more people, so we can be more efficient and actually grow the business faster.
But do it with structure, do it with
Yeah.
KPIs, do
Yeah.
it with all of those
Yeah.
kind of measurable.
But it's one thing that is typical Swedish, which sometimes my guys struggle with, is that we like to have a very flat organization.
Okay.
Creating an organization from like a one-man show, as it was, and up to, as we are now, 24 people, and we're going to continue to grow, is of course to put in an organization chart.
Yeah.
That is so that everyone understands what their role is, but at the same time, we like it to be very, very flat, so that no one thinks that they are not as good as anyone else. And I think that's very typical Swedish, that we are very flat organizations. And that's, I found that slightly difficult to implement in England,
Yeah.
because we are very much the pyramid structure
Everybody expects the
organization.
boss or somebody to take responsibility sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it's shared.
Everyone has to take responsibility for their actions. That is very important, because everyone matters.
Yeah.
And that's why we, in the company, we also have a profit sharing scheme.
Okay.
So from the profit, 90% goes back into the company to be reinvested, and 10% is shared between all employees at the same level. Doesn't matter how much you earn, who you are, everyone share that 10% equally. It's based on sort of 25% goes to everyone that's worked 12 months the financial year, and 75% is then you see how many months have you worked.
Yeah.
So of the total months worked of those 75%, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So basically, the longer you work, the bigger your share of that 75% of the 10% is.
Yeah.
So, but I said it doesn't matter how much you earn. It's everyone gets
Shared equally
Yeah.
based on time served.
Exactly.
Type thing. And how long have you been doing that for? Because that's very innovative.
We started that, I think, around 2005.
Okay. Oh, so it's been in place for a long time.
Yeah.
And what difference has that made to the business?
I think it has made that the employee, because I want everyone to understand whatever you do, it matters.
Yeah.
If you do something good, it matters. If you do something bad, like you pack the wrong product into the wrong box, you put the wrong labels on when you send it out, it matters because it's going to cost the company money. So that's something we talk about a lot, that what happened here cost the company £250.
Yeah.
That means that 25% £25 are less distributed as a profit among ourselves.
So it puts that kind of which means and puts context around it rather than it just being the owner driving profitability for their own sake and benefit.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So because
people do struggle to put those kind of bonus schemes in place. So that's a really lovely idea.
Yeah. And it's simple.
Yeah.
And of course, if we don't make any money, they don't get the bonus. If we lose money, then they have to pay. Then they have to pay. So I sort of threaten them. Sometimes I say sometimes. Yeah. No, it's been we've been good for the last 10 years. It's been sort of very, very steady from a profit point of view. So,
and I sort of need to talk about the industry, I suppose, because we're in a kind of world where hybrid EV, even in the motorsport world, is coming into play, isn't it?
Yeah.
Formula E and all of those kind of things. So how do you manage that, or how do you anticipate the change in the environmental factors and perhaps moving away from fuel into electric is going to affect the business?
Yes. Everything, external factors are always worrying. And that's actually one reason why we took up the Sonax brand. It's a consumable. We like consumables. And that's a car care brand. It's the biggest brand in Europe. So Sonax has been on the market for 75 years. It's a good, solid German brand. Lots of technology goes into it. They look at the sustainability aspect of the product. They don't like using anything that is nasty.
Yeah.
There's some private label brands that if some of the components are carcinogenic, for example, and you use like a polishing compound.
Yeah.
So Sonax is none of that. So it's a great brand, but of course we see that as a way to secure the business in case everything goes EV.
So it's diversification.
Yeah.
How you're focusing.
Exactly, and it's still motor related. But in terms of the sustainability for vehicles, motor racing has always been at the forefront of developing more efficiency, lighter materials, etc. Because you want to go faster around the circuit.
Yeah.
And if you have more efficiency, you use less fuel, then you can go longer, etc. So we now, but of course, crude oil is because it's quite takes a long time for that circular environment. We talk millions and millions of years, or billions of years maybe, from leaves and dead animals to become oil. It's not sort of part of the sustainable circular environment that we are talking about today. So therefore we are looking at how can we replace fuel made from crude oil,
Yeah.
or even in what we wear, like this fleece jacket. Of course, that comes from crude oil.
Yeah.
There's so many things that comes from crude oil. My armband, my watch, everything, wherever we look is crude oil. So it's a big challenge to actually get that change.
Just, we think about it in terms of fuel, but
Yeah.
it's not, is it?
Fuel is just such a small part of it. Anyway, so we have actually developed fuels now that are classed as sustainable.
Okay.
We have our own lab. We have our own blending facility. We have been engineering and designing fuel since early 2000. I think 2003 was the first fuel that I designed. And we also now, with the Sunoco race fuel brand, which is the largest race fuel brand in the world, we are actually under license to produce fuels. We've been for many, many years. We produce Sunoco race fuels. We develop Sunoco race fuels. We give them feedback on the sustainable aspect of fuels, because Europe is ahead of America. And we actually work closely with Goodwood Revival,
Yes.
and the Goodwood members meeting Festival of Speed. And they wanted to go all sustainable fuels for last year. So we helped them through that process, and by developing special fuels for classic vehicles. And that was interesting.
Yeah.
But it all worked fine. There was hardly any noticeable difference between fuels made from crude oil to
Synthetic.
synthetic or sustainable fuels. So that is very much what we're doing, and we're in the process now of developing more fuels to meet these new criteria.
So that's a different dynamic as well, isn't it? Because you're obviously this distributor of some brands, some big fuel and oil brands, and then you develop your own fuels as well. And
for Sunoco, we have our own brand, R Racing.
Yeah.
And that we have racing brake fluids, and we got racing fuels and racing oils, where our suppliers haven't had a suitable product that we need for this market. But now Sunoco are so happy with what we are doing, so they actually say, okay, at least it's as long as it contains some sort of Sunoco fuels in it, we're happy for you to call it Sunoco. And of course, Sunoco, they have a vast experience in producing great quality fuels, but are typically very high octane, much higher octane in America than we have here. So we can use some of their fuels as a blending ingredient when we create other fuels. So
what recognition that is.
Yeah. We are the only one outside Sunoco.
Yeah. But it must make the business quite a complicated business, isn't it? Because you've got all these products that you resell, warehouse sell.
Yeah.
And then you're developing product as well, which is probably slightly unique, isn't it?
Yes. Typically, if you're a fuel producer, you sell it to a wholesaler or an import in a country. You don't normally do that yourself. So we do every aspect, from actually taking calls from Mr. Smith up in Northumberland that wants 25 liters of fuel, to whole championship that needs hundreds of thousands of liters of fuel, or sell fuel to transport for London for the locomotives when they go underground. And there was a low emissions fuels. So there's lots of different specialist applications. So that's what we try to cater for.
And I suppose we've touched on that kind of transition and diversification to make the business so in terms of sustainable and to be here in the future and to succeed. What are your dreams and aspirations for the business?
Right. I didn't used to think like this even 10 years ago. But what I would like to do is to have a business that is super solid, that generates a profit, so we can invest more into the company, and that I should be able to maybe have a day or two off.
Okay.
Like Saturday and Sunday would be nice.
Say it's off. Like everybody else, and have a weekend.
Yes. And maybe even work half a day on Friday. Things like that. That is sort of what I would like to do. And personally, so I can take Eva and we can go for a little spin.
Yeah.
We can enjoy our grandchildren a bit more. But I don't want to sell the business. get approached like every company
Yeah.
a lot. But I've had some serious approaches that come down here, venture capitalist companies, and I just want to listen them out. I'm very intent.
Yeah, always
to
have
say-
a cup of coffee and a chat. You might
That-
learn something.
Absolutely. Because I said, I'm not here for making big money. I would like this company to continue into the future, and that Axel can take it over. And then little Elfie, who's 4 years old now,
Yeah.
can be part of the business, and that it will continue to be a family business.
Brilliant.
And that I can, that me and Eva can be part of it as long as we like.
Yeah.
If we are 80, 90 years old, I still want to be part of it, of the journey, and still, as long as I have the passion
Yeah.
for it. And it's I had a bit of a down period when I thought maybe 10 years ago, just after we built this, there's a lot of pressure because it was a big investment.
Yeah.
And can we really afford this? And you think, why am I doing this? And then you remember why you're doing it. Yes, because it's actually great fun, and it's that selling a product to someone that appreciates what you're doing. It's such a great thing, but you have to like the product that you send.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to go and sell dishwashers
No.
because I'm not interested in those, or computers and things, because I don't understand that. We only live once, and therefore sort of every day needs to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Even if it's 15 hours a day, you still need to enjoy that, what you're doing and who you're talking, who you're meeting, like having a conversation like this.
Yeah.
It's great fun.
Brilliant.
Tell
I'm
the story.
really enjoying it. I'm loving it. And I always end, so I'm not going to end with the question around your definition of success, because I think you've just given that to me, haven't you?
Yeah.
I look back. I suppose the question would be, if you look back, you've created this great family business. Axel's in the business. You talk about parting in some way, shape, or form. There'll be a transition at some point, I'm sure, in some way, and then maybe to his, daughter, your granddaughter.
Yeah.
But do you look back with any regret that perhaps, in his childhood, you were always at work 7 days a week? Would you change that in any way, shape, or form now?
It's, of course, it would be wonderful to be able to spend more time with them when they
The
grow
answer
up.
is always yes, I suppose.
Yeah,
isn't it?
but I remember when I grew up, the last thing I wanted to do was to be with my dad. I wanted to be with my friends, but I wanted my dad and mum to always be there. And I think that part, we have always been there for them. I've always been around. Okay, I've been at race meetings, but then I come back. I've always been in the house. We worked from home.
You talked about being at home when they came home from school.
Yeah, exactly. So that, and now we are sort of making up for it big time by working together.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I think can be challenging if you don't define what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I always, with Axel, been there to support him, but giving him 100% freedom, unless he goes on a tangent, completely wrong direction, but to develop his own brands.
Yeah.
So he has been, for example, that's the garden machinery fuel. It is he who has built all these retailers. He who came up with a business idea how to do it, and I've been there like a sounding board for him. But he's done all the budgeting and built that into sort of, well, this nearly 50% of the turnover now. Not exactly, but maybe 40%. And he continues to grow. And he's now in charge of Sonax. So it is great to have that trust in your son. Say, you do that, and I do this. And now he starts to come telling me off. Why did I do that?
The tide has turned.
Exactly, it's turned. For example, this little beetle behind us here. So I haven't raced for 25 years, and Axel has been having his fun with drifting, and he's quite good at it now, and he's invited to a lot of shows and competitions, sort of outside the UK as well, and it gets lots of exposure. And but I always said, no, I've done racing. I don't have the time. I don't have the money to do it. And then suddenly, whilst I was talking to the organizer of the Fun Cup here,
Yeah.
I always looked at them and said, "That looks so great fun, and they're safe, they're all the same, and I love one make championship because then you can really get
That driver's skill.
yeah, exactly." So I don't know. I just bought it, but I actually asked Eva.
Times have changed as well.
I didn't just go and buy it. I was very smart. We were in Paris at the end of season party with British GT. Big nice party, nice meal. We sat there, good entertainment, and made sure Eva had a couple of glasses of wine. But I presented the idea.
Ever the salesman.
And I said, "Axel thinks it's a really good idea," and she's always been extremely weak, of course, as a mom.
Yeah.
So she said, "Okay." So then I bought it.
So there you are. This year is the year you go back racing.
Yeah, this is the year.
So when's your first race?
15th of April.
Okay.
So we're going to do lots of testing. And of course, it will take time to build up your speed again. And if I can build it up, I hope so. But because it's just an amazing thing, the whole racing. And it's a new market. I meet lots of new guys there and a lot of friends I already know, etc. So that I look forward to. And it feels right now. And it would have been wrong 5 years ago to do it, I think so.
Brilliant. So I've really enjoyed this conversation. If people want to know more about the business, where can they go?
Well, we have our website, of course, which is short for Anglo American Oil Company, so aaoil.co.uk.
Yeah.
Or they can call me.
Yeah.
Just and want to talk to me, and I can chat. I'm happy to chat. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. I've really enjoyed this conversation on the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
No, thank you.
Wow. I think in the intro I said I'm sure there's going to be some great value in that conversation, and wasn't there great value? From that kind of whole piece around the flat structure to the profit share scheme to just the passion that Anders showed us and told during the course of that conversation. There's so much for us as business owners and business leaders to take away. So I hope you, like I, have taken those things away and we can act on some of those things. So again, if you've liked and enjoyed the conversation, join us in 2 weeks' time for the next episode. In the meantime, go and catch up on those old episodes and help us by liking, reviewing, and subscribing to the Evolve to Succeed podcast. Thank you.